A large part of what I do is the study of languages. Languages, philosophy, political science, and how those pieces fit together. Sometimes with a bit of history. Sometimes with a more contemporary focus, sometimes an ancient one, etc. So I do observe oddities in the English language closely, and sometimes, the political nuances of how things are said in Chinese, Japanese, Laotian, you name it. I've dealt with politics for First Nations, for Cree, for Indigenous people in Canada and other groups, so the full list of languages I've had to deal with is pretty long. And my studies in many of those areas did ultimately end in failure, i.e. there are languages I would have liked to have become fluent in, but I didn't have the opportunity in the end to attain fluency. It's interesting to me, the subtle shift in meaning when people use the word expect in English in the following questioning way. What did you expect me to do? We've already shifted from a sincere question of ethics to a strange category of excuse making. Well, after September 11th, what did you expect George W. Bush to do? Isn't that a very different question from asking, do you think he did the right thing? Isn't it a different question from asking, what's the best possible thing he could have done? What's the worst possible thing he could have done? In what ways was he right and what ways was he wrong? It doesn't have to be George W. Bush. It can be Tony Blair. It can be François Hollande after the terrorist attacks in Paris not so long ago. You could say, what was the best thing he could have done? What was the correct thing of the decisions he made? Which ones were right, which ones were wrong? Those are all meaningful questions. But as soon as we start by asking, what did you expect him to do? What do you expect him to do? What do you expect from him? It's interesting to me because there's nothing in the wording of the question that makes it clear, and yet in a subtle sense, the nature of the demand has totally shifted into excuse-making. So this fellow, who is slightly famous because he is the father of Nina and Randa, who are themselves slightly famous for appearing in a Taco Bell commercial, and for playing the guitar, and for being vegan, and for giving advice on diet and health and other things. This guy uses the name Vegsource. He has asked, what did you expect me to do? Now, he backs that up by, of course, giving unreasonable examples of what someone might have expected. What did you expect me to do? What did you expect George Bush to do? Just save the world? What did you expect George Bush to do? Just wave his hands and make everything better? What did you expect George Bush to do after Hurricane Katrina? Now, that could be a really meaningful question. Again, it would never be phrased that way. Let's make a list of the 10 policy decisions George W. Bush should have taken after Hurricane Katrina. Let's examine the policy decisions he actually did make and decide which were good, which were bad, which were optimal, which were suboptimal, what would have been optimal or ideal in retrospect. Those are meaningful questions. But as soon as we frame, what did you expect George Bush to do? It's funny how the whole game changes, huh? Okay, Vegsource, what did I expect you to do, and what did you actually do? One of my fans wrote to you, a supporter of mine on Patreon, and he sent me the screenshots of your replies. Basically, he sent you 2 messages, maybe 3, maybe he sent more after, but I remember 2, where he was basically saying to you, look, this thing that happened in Chiang Mai is a big deal. What do you think about it? Asking you to take it seriously. He was not asking you to make a video about me. I've never asked that of you. Nobody asked that of you. My fan didn't ask. I didn't ask. Nobody has suggested that. So you say, what do you expect me to do? And then to supply as a suggestion what you imagine I might have expected you to do, being that you make a video about me, which you've now done, incidentally. Pat yourself on the back. No. But when my fan asked you about this, your reply was completely dismissive, completely contemptuous. You pretended you didn't know who I was, whereas you clearly did. I know you've watched some of the videos on my channel. One of your recent videos actually includes a clip from one of my videos from my channel, which is fine. I'm not complaining, but I can tell, that's where you got that from. You know me. I know you. When my fan asked you about this, your reply was completely contemptuous, completely dismissive, and completely backing and supporting Durianrider. So the questions you're getting now are not out of left field, whether they're from my fans or your fans or anyone else. People are a bit shocked and appalled that you continued supporting Durianrider at a time when he threatened to have a gang of thugs beat me up in the streets of Chiang Mai. And yes, that threat was initially made indirectly. He was addressing the people who could be those thugs. He was calling for his supporters, the people who, supposedly would do his bidding. But soon enough, hours later, he was sending those threats to me directly, which everyone here has seen the screenshots. I can give the link to the video below in case anyone doesn't already know about this. This is not my imagination. This has all been documented, etc. Now, it's not a question of what I expected you to do. I don't have any expectations on you. You could have responded in any way. You could have responded with sincere concern, like, oh boy, a friend of mine, Durianrider, someone who is your friend, is resorting to street violence, to threats of having a gang of thugs beat someone up in the streets. You could have been concerned. You could have been interested to look into it. You could have said, well, gee, I don't know. This is the first I've heard about it, whether or not it was the first you heard about it. Boy, that's serious enough that I should look into it. That's what you could have done. Someone might have expected that of you. Someone might have asked it of you. That might have been morally good, or at least morally neutral. That might have been responsible. But I'll tell you something. If anyone I knew on the internet, someone I knew closely, someone I knew personally, someone I had this kind of relationship, like such as you've had with Durianrider with, or a stranger, if I found out that stranger had done what Durianrider did to me, I'd be concerned. It would change my opinion of them morally forever. And, we've come close to that. You guys may or may not know. The Light Twins made some videos where they were kind of making fun of Vegan Cheetah. And it sounds like, especially if you quote it out of context, it sounds like they're threatening to go beat him up in the streets, in terms of their turn of phrase. Now, I knew that wasn't what they were doing because I talked to them. I actually talked to them before that video was made public, or they talked to me, both, whatever you want to say. And I remember they completely reassured me that what they were talking about was a charity boxing match, something that, promotes veganism and, would promote them, it would promote Vegan Cheetah. It could be fun. And from my perspective, if those guys ever do have that boxing match, I think they'll be the best of friends 6 months later or 6 minutes later. There's no real hostility. There's no malice. But definitely, if they hadn't talked to me first, I might have been concerned, based on what they said in that video, that they were actually talking about assaulting someone, like jumping someone in an alleyway, something with malice, something with danger. Again, they're two guys. They're not a gang guys. What Durianrider was threatening was, strictly speaking, gang violence. It was a gang of people beating me up in the streets, and he was refusing to meet with me under any other circumstances. Okay? To this day, Durianrider has never written to me privately. All of the communications were public. They're all public messages. The only private message I ever sent to him, the only thing that was not, you guys have seen the screenshots, the only thing that wasn't on a public forum, whether, there's one message back and forth on Patreon, these other things were on Facebook or what have you. The one message I sent to him that was accompanied by a screenshot that you guys have seen, one of the screenshots in the video, was, don't act like it's hard to find me. And the screenshot said something you guys have already heard me say, was, look, if you want to talk to me by email, you can talk to me now. If you want to talk to me by Skype, we can make it happen in 5 minutes. But if you want to get in a boxing ring, that's cool. You want to catch a fade, we can do that too. And all I had to say, and the only private message I ever sent to that guy was, don't act like it's hard to find me. Okay? Vegsource, for you to say to me that I can fight my own battles, fuck you. That's disrespect, and you're in no position to disrespect me in this. Okay? You fucked up. Okay? Nobody was asking you to make a video. Nobody was asking you to say or do anything. But you have just given an apologia for why you and Durianrider have been friends, still are friends, why you backed him when he did things that were deeply immoral and disturbing. Things that would be disturbing for anyone you knew. What Durianrider did to me, what went down in Chiang Mai, would be disturbing if Durianrider was just some loser who fixed bikes at the local bike shop. You know it. Okay? But he's not. Durianrider describes himself as the most influential vegan activist in the world. Okay? He describes himself as a serious political leader, and you know that he has power over people. Some people relate to him as a cult leader. I don't even blame him for that. I don't. but he has a cult-like authority over some people. And I've met some of them. I've seen some of them face to face. Not everyone. There are other people for whom it's just lighthearted entertainment. There are people who don't take it that seriously. There are people for whom it's just weight loss advice. There are people for whom, obviously, it's a joke and they just laugh at everything he does. But yes, Durianrider does have followers who hang on his every word. He does have followers where it's very believable they'd get together and beat someone up under exactly those circumstances. And when I was in Chiang Mai, okay, so was this a credible threat? I think I haven't told this story before. There was one morning when I woke up real early, maybe 5:15 a.m., 5:20 a.m., something like that. And I opened up my window. And the window in this apartment building, you could see outside, but you could also see through two windows into the hallway. So the hallway where people would wait for the elevator in that building. So it's an exterior window. I open it up, but I'm actually seeing partly into the hallway in front of my own apartment building. In front of my own apartment, inside the apartment building. Open up the window, and there's a skinny dude standing there with a bike helmet, skin-tight green, bike jersey on, and the guy has his cell phone out, and, he's idly, paging through emails or something on his cell phone. And, in that split second, I thought, oh, they're here. And you know what? I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel angry. I actually felt happy. I was like, oh, so it's not all just bullshit after all. Like, it's 5:20 a.m. or something, and they're actually at my door. We're actually going to do this. Now, of course, it turned out it was a complete, I thought it, all this in your mind takes a fraction of a second. A split second later, the guy was wearing a green biking jersey, but it didn't say vegan. He was just some guy who woke up early to go long-distance cycling or whatever. And, he was just waiting for the elevator. And he got in the elevator and he left. He wasn't coming to my apartment. He just happened to be right in front of my apartment at that moment when I opened up the window. Durianrider made all this noise about wanting to know where I lived so he could come to my door and beat me up. In reality, I walked past the front door of their most popular vegan restaurant where all those guys hung out, and I talked to those guys, some of them in front of that restaurant, so they knew where I lived. It was no mystery. It was not hard to find me. And as you know, I posted openly. I said, okay, I'm going to do a karaoke night. If they want to show up and beat me up, or they want to show up and just talk to me, they can do that. So I made myself available in every possible way, whether it was on the street, at the karaoke bar, in my apartment building, in the boxing ring, whatever. I said, see me when you see me. Don't act like it's hard to find me. Okay? You want to tell me I can fight my own fights? That's not the question. Okay, that is not the question. Okay, and I can relate. I could have been in your position. What would I have done if the Light Twins, they're not crazy, but let's say the Light Twins were crazy and they really were threatening to beat up Cheetah on the streets, which again, if you take it out of context, kind of sort of sounds like that's where they were going in like one of their videos. They didn't really mean it, blah, 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 whatever. Okay? No, for me, I would take that seriously. I take it seriously not just because it's a threat against a person, but because it's the kind of threat that really can discredit veganism. And it especially discredits this little demi-monde we're all sharing here, right? We're all people who talk about veganism on YouTube, all right? I got the same thing to say to you, Vegsource. I got the same thing to say to you. Don't act like it's hard to find me, okay? Friend of mine I did a podcast with the other day, lawyer, does ecological law, environmental law cases in Washington, D.C. He showed me a list recently. He showed me a list of how many people who talk about veganism on YouTube can pull 1,000 viewers per video. Okay? There were only 212 names on that list. Okay? So the number of people like us, the number of people in this demi-monde, it's a small circle of people. I don't expect you to care about me. But you know what? When you look at that list, it gets smaller and smaller if you take out the people who just do cooking videos. Nothing wrong with that, but it's different from what we do. People who just do makeup videos, people who just do swimming at the beach videos. When you get down to substantive content, actually you and me and Durianrider, we're in a small pond. We're in a small circle, okay? This little world we share, it's a small world. Do I expect you to be concerned when a friend and colleague of yours in that small world, sharing this small ecosystem, threatens someone else with exactly that kind of violence? Credible threat. We're both in Chiang Mai. I'm actually out there. I'm on those streets in Chiang Mai. I'm meeting those people. I'm facing them. Yeah, I expect you to be concerned. I expect you to say something realer than what you did say for your own professional reputation, for Durianrider's reputation, for the reputation of vegans, for the future of this whole thing. Yes, I expected better than you. Do you want to know what I expected of you? Yes, I expected some level of human interest. I expected you not to make lame-ass excuses for Durianrider. I expected you now not to make lame-ass excuses for yourself.